What do you say to the people who consider it a double standard for politicians such as you to social distance at your work, but students and teachers are not given the opportunity, particularly when over 20 children can be put in a small portable with few windows? And will you be requiring school boards to meet face-to-face with an opportunity for the public to safely address them?
Well, what I would say is that all guidelines for the reopening of vital services or businesses, or the K-12 setting in particular, have been developed by science and the public health leadership of the Provincial Health Office and the BC Centre for Disease Control. And that is why there are layers of protection in schools that are very different and configured for a school setting. We've learned a lot from other jurisdictions that are also planning a safe reopening of their school. Many of the common features in our plan are shared by other jurisdictions that are developing plans to keep staff and students safe. And you know, schools are different than, say, a shopping mall. These are secure, controlled sites. They're buildings that are distributed into different configurations with many rooms. We have a learning cohort model that is developed on the public health advice of Dr. Bonnie Henry and her team, and again is common with the features of many plans that you see in European countries and across Canada. And so we've worked as well during this planning period since we released the July 29th direction with local occupational health and safety teams, with local unions including teachers and support staff. And when we have orientation week on September 8th and 9th, the site-specific occupational health and safety teams will be able to orient every staff member about what safe practices look like and the different layers of protection. And then we will have that opportunity and the balance of the week to safely welcome back gradually students to have a similar COVID awareness orientation to their schools.
Graham, do you have a follow-up? Okay, moving on. Next question is from Marcella Bernardo, News 1130.
Hi, Minister. I was hoping to ask you, along with the lines of the last question, have you had a chance to actually visit any of these schools and see how they're being set up? Because I'm hearing from parents and teachers who say you cannot physically distance 20 kids in one classroom. So what concerns do you have after visiting schools, if you have, about properly spacing everybody out so they are staying 2 meters apart, or that they are in a situation where they're not going to be exposing someone else to this virus?
So again, we go back to the layers of protection that are critically important. The number one layer of protection is keeping levels of community transmission low in every part of British Columbia. The second is really around hand hygiene, enhanced cleaning, the public health principles around learning cohorts, so making sure that kids don't roam freely and interact with hundreds and hundreds of students in an elementary school, for example, but they stagger their break schedules and they keep to within a much smaller group of staff and fellow students. Self-monitoring for health each and every day, not going to school if you're sick, whether you're a staff member or a student, again, critically important. We have also worked with school districts around, making it possible to have frequent hand hygiene, for example, with additional hand washing stations, with having well-stocked supplies, with making masks not only available, but required in certain circumstances where students are traversing in an area where they can't keep physical distancing that's outside of their learning cohort. So those are the pillars of the plan that are quite common across jurisdictions. Physical distancing is promoted whenever possible. Certainly the public health principle in a school setting that must be adhered to, and I think kids even as young as kindergarten and grade 1 can understand, is to not have physical direct contact with one another. So kids will be part of this as well, making this work. You play differently, you learn differently, you arrange the classroom in a way that conforms to the guidelines that we've developed. Those are some of the key principles of keeping our schools safe come September.
Marcella, do you have a follow-up?
Just, I guess, what backup plans or what safety protocols are in place should the numbers continue to spike to a point where we have to lock everything down again?
Look, I think we have the ability to, with our public health management, ensure that we have communities that are well managed, where there are episodes or outbreaks in workplace settings or in communities or from event gatherings. We've seen that with the Minister of Health announcing additional contact tracing resources. There are specific guidelines if and when a case should present itself in a school about exactly what you do in that situation, when a public health investigation begins. And also the plan that we have, the stages document, shows that if we get into a so-called second wave or a very different situation in the months or even into 2021, that we'll be able to move forward as well as we can move back. And I think the experience in June, where we did move forward into stage 3, was particularly valuable for British Columbia, which, other than Quebec, was alone in Canada for having a return to in-class instruction. The lessons we learned from that, I think, are ones that we can replicate if and when we should move backwards. But that will always be a call of public health officials working in consultation with the Ministry of Education and local school districts or a particular health region.